Hello, thank you so much for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming. This is Atsushi. Let me check everything first. Audio should be good. Let me check everything first. Is it on? It should be on. There we go. All right. Thank you for coming to the Sashiko Live Streaming on Thursday night. This is Atsushi. I'm so sorry for the previous live streaming. That last week I had a little bit of I don't know if there was a sick. I didn't feel very well last week at all. And I could have done the Thursday morning live streaming, but I could not do the afternoon. I mean, that evening. So I apologize for the previous cancellation. From now on, not now on, but as long as I don't have that kind of feeling bad moment, I would like to keep doing that on Thursday night, always 9 o'clock p.m. Okay. Few announcement. And one announcement is that I will plan a Japan tour in 2025 as well. It's not concrete at all yet, but I keep receiving a request to have it. It probably will be sometime September, October next year, like a year from now or so. Nothing has been confirmed yet, but I would like to be more active on planning if it's possible. So if you are interested in that, please check our new website for the details. Of course, detail can be, it's a subject to change, but I would like to share as much as I can to those who sign up for the Google Sheet, not a Google Sheet, Google Form first. And, and in 2024, this year, I do not have any workshop planned. And no, at this moment, no plans. But there are a few workshops planned in 2025. And when it gets too close to that date, they pick up pretty quickly and they can sell out pretty fast. So if you can make a plan in advance, please consider that. Those are kind of rare opportunity. I don't teach that often, as I don't have any more plans. So if you can arrange that workshop, like a retreat, that'd be great. And those actual event, actual links, actual plans are listed on the website I mentioned on the description area on the YouTube. All right. I will switch the camera and then I will start stitching. So I was going to finish this. Today was gonna be, well, last week, Thursday a week ago was going to be the last day for this furoshiki. And I was planning to do it tonight, but I forgot to bring the thread out. I had another meeting before this and it was really fun and it was very last time thing. I just finished like the previous meeting a few minutes ago. So this one, I'm going to bring it to the next week so that I can bring the appropriate thread for that. Instead, I will work on the whatever I have on the table, which I was working like a minute ago too. Okay. The heat came back. It was very nice for the last few days, but it is extremely hot again. Today's live streaming, I will ask you a question about English terms. As much as I'm trying to learn I'm as much as I'm trying to learn like a word and concept. Reading itself has a little limitation as the second language user, including those nuances that it's not written, it's not something that it's not really spoken. When I use the term, my intention is always to use it as correctly as possible. So at some point, I will ask you for the two terms that I kind of confused. I'm confused, or I don't think there's a clear definitions for that, but I would like to see how you, as those who may use the English as the first language, would consider that. I love Jocelyn, thank you for coming. I would love to attend the trip in 2025. I'll add my info to the Google Doc, but it will depend on my budget closer to the date. Yep. It's not a requirement. It's just depends on the budget, depends on the timing, depends on everything. And as of now, the tour itself is maximizing everything. I mean, I'm not gonna, book the 4-star hotels or 5-star hotels. I'm not gonna spend $500 per day to stay in a hotel. But it's gonna be, I will do as the comfort is the key. So, comfort and experience is the two mission that I would like to make it happen. So, of course, the experience and meeting people comes first. At the same time, in order to focus on the experience meeting, I really value the comfort. So if there's any comfort that I can buy with money, I would choose that. But that can affect the budget if we have a different approach. So everything is still on the table. So, and those sign up has no restriction. No, you can just decline that whenever, unless you pay for the first deposit. So anyway, so I will ask a question soon. I have been really thinking about learning. Learning is probably the key. So the question is, I will repeat the question when the other people start coming in more. What is the difference between cherry picking and cultural appropriation? I probably understand the cherry picking. It's much easier for me to understand or be comfortable with the concept of cherry picking. I still don't know what the cultural appropriation fully, and in the process of kind of learning those two words, I kind of start feeling that there are no difference between those two things. So what is the difference? Are they the same thing? Different way to approach it? Or is there any like clear line or clear point to distinguish those two? Those words are pretty powerful, so I really do not want to swing around without proper understanding. Although I sometimes have to use it, but it is quite important investment for me to understand the word itself. So even if you're watching this from the archives, your input in the comment would be very much appreciated. The difference between cherry picking and the cultural appropriation, it's not the difference based on the definition on the website is appreciated, but more importantly, I would appreciate and enjoy the kind of your personal impression toward that. Like how you personally would define that, how you personally would use those two words. English is so difficult. There are so many words with so many. Like sustainability is another word that I'm trying to understand somehow, but it can be quite challenging for that. Sustainability and what else? There were other words I forgot. Yo, 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 yo. Hey, yay. It's kind of rare for me to stitch like this pattern. Actually, in any patterns, I haven't probably stitched the patterns besides Asanoha Shippo and this type of stitching for many months. So this may be something pretty fresh, like new to some viewers here. It's not that I can't. It's not that I cannot. It's just I don't choose. And that's another thing. There's a big difference between can't and don't. Hello, 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 hello. Yep. God, it's so hot here again. It's probably humid too. It was pretty, actually, the question I asked, the difference between cultural appropriation and cherry picking, I had a pretty good conversation before this live streaming. Like we were just chatting, like meeting, chatting, stitching together kind of thing. And I had a very interesting moment. I laughed a lot, but still, I'm not really 100% like understanding it. And her explanation was that there is a significant difference. They're two separate things. And her explanation made sense, but it does not really satisfy yet. It's kind of rude for her. I'm sorry to say that, but I still want more to. It's very sensitive things, and I would like to understand that, especially when I use it often. Thank you, Jocelyn. Cherry picking is choosing the best from a range of options. It has a slight negative connotations, but not as negative as cultural appropriation, which is akin to the theft, lack of respect for the source. So it can happen. It can be identified as both, technically, so something can be identified as both. So let's say that you go to the Asian food buffet, and then you decided to eat just sushi. There are many other Japanese food with let's say Japanese food. Let's say that you went to the Japanese buffet and you only ate sushi. Although there were many other kind of Japanese food, including something nasty, something kind of not preferable for the bigger market. So you then you decided to, let's say, teach how to make sushi or how to eat sushi as the way, as that's like to promote some of your business. So that's picking the only sushi out of the context of Japanese cooking is cherry picking. And what happens what needs to be done to make the cultural appropriation in this example? See, it's so difficult. So I really appreciate the Jocelyn's explanation, but there's one question. I don't think culture is something we can steal or theft. But the word appropriate is kind of imply that. So it can happen both. Okay, it can happen both. Cherry picking is more easier for me to understand. But I guess there are differences. And I understand that both of them are not a positive word. It's more like negative word. So when I use it, I'm trying to be as careful as possible. I don't try to swing it much. But that's why, because I do not believe that the culture is not something it can be categorized under theft, which probably I am wrong, because I know that there are people who are, speaking up about it, and I respect them for that. It can be probably stolen. I just don't know that. But what was I gonna say? I have been reading a lot of things, man. The last week, I have been reading a lot of things, and my brains are like steaming hot. I forgot to what to go. I forgot how I was building my logic. That's not good. It can be. What was I gonna say? So both of them are the negative word. I don't want to swing it. Unless it's really necessary to swing it. And Ali. Alessi, thank you for the comment. How about cultural appropriation being when someone takes inspiration from another culture but claim to have invented it or borrowed in such a way as to deeply offend the original intent. Let me repeat that again. I'm sorry, I did not understand the later part. How about cultural appropriation being when someone takes inspiration from another culture but claims to have invented it, or borrows it in such a way as to deeply offend the original intent? Can that description be the cherry picking, though? So, cherry picking of culture. That's my understanding. Like Alessi's description is very much my understanding, very aligned to my explanation. But then I get confused that difference. Cherry picking of the culture or cherry picking the cultural context can be translated as the cultural appropriation then? Like, what does make one cherry picking and what does make another the cultural appropriation? Cherry picking is very easy. It's more comfortable. It's very, very comfortable for me to understand it because I have seen that I have probably done the same thing too at some point. So let's say that I would like to try my best to avoid both of that, neither of that. What do I have to pay attention to if I would like to avoid it? I know I'm asking a very, very difficult question. It's not something. Let's see, that's my question. That's your question too. You're on the same page. Could there be the line between harmless cherry picking and actual appropriation, which serves to be destructive the spirit of the original? So if the cherry picking is harmful or damaging the original form, then it is the cultural appropriation. So it's like a cherry picking is a Pikachu, and then cultural appropriation is the Raichu. They evolved to that. Cherry picking itself can be done for the positive. So it's the evolution. Is it? It's probably wrong, but it's so difficult. And trust me, I Google enough. I Googled a lot, but no answer for that. I mean, there are some answers, but it does not ring the bell much. Well, I'm doing my best for that. Is it new concept? This is something I might be asking. Are those two concepts are relatively new, or did we have it, let's say, 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Before the internet comes into our life, internet brought a lot of concept, a lot of like negative effect to that world, to this world, in terms of the word. There's a very, useful word to kind of, how can I say, to describe the negative action or harmful contents. I mean, there are many words to describe anything for that matter. But did we have that word or concept 30 years ago, 40 years ago? The Pikachu Raichu comparison made me laugh. I have missed a lot of your streams, so I'm glad to be back here. Welcome back. I think the concept of cultural appropriation existed before, but I think the term itself might be new to the mainstream media. The concept of cultural appropriation existed, but the word itself, term probably with explaining or representing something is new to us. Okay, that makes sense. Thank you. So the Pikachu Raichu thing, if let's say the cherry picking is the Pikachu and then cultural appropriation the Raichu, then they are the same thing. They are essentially the same thing. They are just the before the evolution or after evolution. It's pretty much the choice. Somebody might prefer the cute Pikachu. Somebody might prefer the strong Raichu. So I mean, it doesn't have to be Pikachu. Anything is fine. But if it's the evolution, if it's the change issue, then the core value, core message can be the same. I'm sorry, I'm giving you a very difficult time, although you maybe want to just stitch, but I really would like to. How can I say? I need to understand it, I guess. Because this exists on a spectrum of choices, me playing the Sashiko is not the same level of cultural integration as the English stealing Aboriginal chicken to raise as English. But yes, I understand that you playing with Sashiko is not the same level of cultural interaction as the English stealing Aboriginal children to raise. That's a pretty significant thing. But if you define Sashiko without talking to Japanese, and then decided to raise Sashiko as your own thing, like you don't own Sashiko, but as if you know everything about Sashiko without knowing anything, instead of just playing, if you decided to adopt it, and if you decided to raise it as yours, isn't it the same level of the interaction? The difference is just the people or practice. I mean, stealing children's a little bit too much, but I mean, to be honest, this is my honest feeling. Cultural appropriation does not exist when it's not within the personal practice, or even very small practice, small community practice. If you practice Sashiko for yourself, for your family, for your small group of friends, even if you teach, no matter what you say, it's not appropriation. It's just enjoying it. As I enjoy the pizza, as I enjoy the beer. I don't actually enjoy the beer because I don't drink anymore. But we can enjoy a lot of things from different culture. It will be the problem when we decided to represent to that culture. For example, if I decided to say that I am the master of making pizza and decided to start teaching that, then that's going to be the issue because you're changing it. And that part of saying that I'm the expert in pizza is an action of cherry picking too, because I don't really pick the whole culture of cooking or Italian cooking, and yet picked one part of the cooking and then start being the expert on that. So, as it is very true that it's spectrum, and it's the matter of degree. Not about. Therefore, I would like to kind of make the little line. It's probably there's no answer for that. There's not a correct definition to, but I would like to have the line, well, which I have already. I have a line, but I would like to make sure that my lines are not eccentric. That would be very rude, but it would not interfere with the original culture being able to maintain the truth of the practice. Just be a full Sashiko guru. Yes, yes. So that's a really good point. So you decided to be the but what if that your student, your audience believe that you are the authentic one because nobody else can speak the other language. Nobody else has the power to go to the original. The origin is far away from the practice itself. So they, technically speaking, they cherry picked, they brought it here, and then became the master of it. Not many people, the majority does not have the information or ability to find out that it's not authentic. When that's kind of like a fake. I think that's why it is so important for artists to be honest about where their inspiration has come from and why plagiarism is bad form. Yes, that's the conclusion. Thank you. That's my conclusion. That's really. Thank you so much for saying my conclusion. I just. That's why. That is why, because it's so difficult, it is very important. It's my message too. It is extremely important to identify the upstream. The world is too connected for that now. Yeah, that's very true too. World is very connected. World is connected. At the same time, we see what we want to see. Sometimes we don't see what we don't want to see, even if it's true. I think it comes down to educating people on whatever subset of culture they are participating in. Most times people don't intend to be rude, but may just not where the things come from. 100 years ago, I could have sold English people a bunch of silliness as yoga, but now they can Google many form of yoga. That's a good point. And I think that's what Sashiko is experiencing. One, let's say non-Japanese who does not read Japanese, Google what Sashiko is. All the information they can get right now are not all, I'm sorry, the majority of the information they can get are not done by Japanese. So the Google is not always the answer. The internet does not give us the answer. They can define the incorrect answer. Is that a cultural appropriation or is that a cherry picking? Or it's both. Or either neither. I mean, if we can be careful like this all the time, we don't even have to worry about it. But the point is that there are some numbers of people who think that it's a bullshit. I mean, I don't swear in this live streaming. It's nonsense. So they will kind of do whatever they want for what they want. It can be money, it can be profit, it can be attention, it can be anything. But for them, what it is not that important. What they can get out of it is more important. And that's translation activities catching up with demand. So one more thing. I'm sorry, this is too many what if, and I'm not really questioning. I hope you don't take it as me questioning. What if that culture is not even spoken out in the original culture because it is too ordinary, because it's so natural for them? Like, for you to make mac and cheese, you probably do not write down everything, when you made it, how much you made it, how you made it. It's too ordinary to do that. So you don't really speak up about it. You we imagine that we can do that, or it's it's old that nobody practice anymore. So there's no such a thing as to translate. Nothing, but if the resource is very, 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 very little to translate to. But you're right. So it's the matter of time to catch up. If the demand is bigger, well, but I think Alessi and I are kind of alike. I'm sorry to say that alike, but we believe, Alessi and I, probably, I'm sorry, I'm assuming, I'm really assuming, and I'm sorry if I'm wrong, but we have a tendency to believe that all people are decent. Like we are born good. So I understand what Alessi right here very well, but that's not what I'm experiencing. That's the big glitch in between. I thought like that, but in the reality, something else. I'm experiencing something else. They don't really want to hear what they don't want to hear. I think sharing the culture is important and fun. When I was younger, I focused too much on consuming other culture, but as I got older, I find that it's important to share my culture too. Is it okay if I ask what culture you are from? Sharing is fun. That's very true. Sharing is very fun. And I'm really happy that Sashiko's practice has spread this much a lot. But it unfortunately brings me the pain too when it's not properly done. And sometimes the pain becomes too big that I, don't want to do it more than that. I'm from Thailand, so we have a diverse mix of people living here. Sorry, it's not Thailand. Trinidad, Tobago. I'm sorry, it's not a Thailand, Trinidad. So we have wow. I know nothing about Trinidad. I'm sorry, I don't know anything, but it must be fun. Is that Trinidad Tobago? What is Tobago? I'm so sorry. I know that forgive my ignorance for that. That's a fair point, or the person cherry picking is younger and doesn't want to become an expert in a particular field. I don't get offended when Elizabethan is not historically accurate. Well, just let me make it clear, just in case some people have a very strong reaction to the word cultural appropriation itself. So when I even say that word, even if I use that word, they automatically assume that I'm accusing them for doing Sashiko. I don't know why, but some people react to that. I have a video explaining the cultural appropriation is nonsense, kind of, yet I get a very too extreme reply. One saying, the appreciation saying that the clarification helped them to enjoy more. One says cultural appropriation is nonsense. Yeah, I said that in the video. Like, I disagree with your cultural appropriation is nonsense. Is the comment that proof that he or she did not watch the video at all. So but at the same time, I'm not saying the cultural appropriation does not exist. It does exist. So I hope you enjoy. Enjoying Sashiko itself does not become the cultural appropriation. Beck, thank you for the comment. I have learned from you where Sashiko come from and the story. Today it seems like with abundant clothes and quality Sashiko material is so costly that it can only exist as a beautiful Japanese kind of embroidery and mending for hobby rather than survival. How do you reconcile the context of the modern world with Sashiko? That's a very good question. How do I reconcile? The initial thought is I don't know. And I don't even think that's my work to do. I don't consider myself as the future of Sashiko. I consider you, anybody who is listening my stories are the future of Sashiko. So with the kind of proper and best effort understanding, I hope that Sashiko will find a place to be in any culture for that matter. Because we don't have, like, Sashiko is no longer necessary comparing to the original purpose. I mean, if you have to stitch for the survival, seriously, like, you have to go to some, social welfare. If you don't have a clothes to wear tomorrow, if you have to mend it, you may want to ask for the help in the developed country. That's probably the time you might want to ask for the help. Many people will gladly help. So it has become the choice. And we are very grateful that it became the choice. And there's a reason that Sashiko materials became so costly because they don't follow. That culture itself is already once dead. That sustainability, like the thread I'm using, this one, this got discontinued once or twice already. So in order to revive it, it cost a lot. And in order to, there are two components. Those it's not even quality, it's the numbers of artisans who engage in this practice, the sustainability for this purpose. So there are so many, well, let me just, in the past, was yarn significantly cheaper than the cloth, and the cloth fabric is that way that they could afford the yarn to reinforce their cloth instead of new cloth. Difference to answer that question, yes. The thread, not a yarn, but thread itself was very cheaper than the cloth fabric itself. So this fabric is more expensive than this thread. But in a very big change of Sashiko and its adaptation to this new world, they invented, for that matter, they kind of applied the wisdom to the mass production so that they don't have to make the thread out of the cotton flower. They may have been doing that. They invested money and also some time to buy time with money. So we can go back to that old era that we can spin the thread from scratch. I don't want to do that. I'm sorry, but I don't want to go back to that era. But if we can go back to that process, it can be cheaper. So any thread is fine for Sashiko, but to get that wisdom that developed in the last 50, 60 years, it has to be one specific thread. But because this has not become the major trend because of the amount of the production, this was discontinued. They discontinued some of those. As the result, it became more costly to produce. So it's like a negative spiral for that. So we kind of chose to apply our understanding that we can dispose things. I don't think any fabric or threads are made for the purpose of repurposing. I shouldn't say any, but not many. Not many fabrics are made for that purpose. So this fabric, we have a reason to use this fabric because it's strong enough. This is a good for the purpose of making fabric stronger with the thread as well as repurposing it. It can be used for 10 years, 20 years. I'm 40 years old, so I don't know about beyond 40, but it can last more than 42 because I do have some items before I was born. And many Japanese vintage fabrics, which can be costly right now again. So it is kind of ironic, for that matter, to kind of get the quality items, we have to spend more. The quality itself is more, of course, it's a quality, but sometimes it's more like original, which was out of no choice. So it's very, very ironic. At the same time, I don't want to just give up saying, like, I don't want to give up this thread because this thread will help many, many, many people in long term. Same as needle, same as fabric, same as thimble, same as everything for that matter. Sorry, I just kind of skip some of the comment. My best friend found out about Sashiko last week and I loves it. He wants some patterns embroidered onto his favorite jacket. So at worst, I'm spending joy, even if I don't know much about it. At worst time, my best friend found out about Sashiko last week and loves it. He wants some patterns embroidered on his favorite jacket. At worst, I am spreading joy. I find nothing is a problem. I don't find anything as a problem. Like nothing is a problem. If there's a kind of like a suggestion to respect or appreciate the culture, I would ask you and your best friend to define what Sashiko is. So their understanding, your understanding of Sashiko and his understanding of Sashiko may be different from what the Japanese people understand as a Sashiko. Because that's how translation and also interpretation made so different. If he likes the embroidery on the jacket, I think his understanding of Sashiko is very filtered by non-Japanese concept. For that, it may not be as it's just like a sushi in alphabet is not the same as the sushi in Japan. So there's so many. It's not wrong information, but it's just insufficient. It's not enough to explain that. I just saw this video showing a 3D loom and it creates cloth that you can unweave when you are finished and create thread to make another piece of clothing. Yeah, we have that culture called sakiori. So many things were developed in the form of sustainable. Well, I don't like the word sustainability too much, but so for that, the Sashiko right now today is cherry picked by somebody else. And because there are not that many information available in English from the Japanese Sashiko artisans like me, the Google will define the majority's answer as the answer in that specific language. So I consider it as the result of cherry picking. I'm not saying you have done the cherry picking, but somebody else did it, and then that's the. If you do not open up your mind, well, you are opening up your mind. That's why you're here. But if they don't open up their mind, and then if they only believe what they can find as the thing, then it's gonna be I don't want to say they're contributing to the cherry picking, but that's the part of the flow. So the acknowledgement itself is enough for that, because if they acknowledge that the Sashiko they know may be not enough, then they will expand their, practice to learn more. That's like a nature of human. Well, that's hopefully the nature of human. So, but I never did, and I never will, and I hope I think I didn't do any of those, but I never accused anyone who is enjoying Sashiko for the cultural appropriation or even cherry picking. No, I have never done that. I have done that for those who teaches as the expert, as the Sashiko expert. If one teaches Sashiko as the part of like a textile history or, like in the big picture, then that's perfectly fine. So for that, 99.9% of the people who are enjoying Sashikos are not really a problem at all. They're not offending me, or they're not. I don't even. Think as I don't even recognize that as the issue. But when it becomes like teaching as the source of spreading the cherry-picked information, then that's a problem. I'll do my best to respect your wishes. I've been trying to use the correct parents' names, and we talked about what the parents are representing so far. Yeah, that's a start. But that's more like a knowledge, right? You'll be probably surprised. If you are new to Sashiko, please read my Instagram. There are quite fundamental misunderstanding here. So that if someone asks him about them on his jacket, he can tell them at least what they're looking at. Yeah. So, they can say, well, this is called Sashiko, and if you want to learn more, here's the account, here's the things, here's the weird Japanese guy talking about it. And that's the way to respect the culture. That's the way to preserve the culture. Identifying or specifying the, upstream way to learn Sashiko from. And that's pretty much what I ask. I finished a pattern on the sample indigo swatch with the bright white thread. It was beautiful and much easier to stitch. Before I was practicing on white sarashi and different colors. Yeah, so this fabric and my threads are... It's the easiest. And it's not like, it's not like a training to be some monk or something. So you don't have to go through the suffering. If there's any easier way to enjoy this stitching, like, please find a way. I would not choose the fabric or thread. Well, again, I always try to do the easiest way. So that makes a lot of difference. Well. I still have to kind of fight for that. Again, Sashiko introduced in English is unfortunately not explaining, not even close to enough. And if I say that, you're probably your follow-up question is, then what? If the Sashiko introducing English is not enough, then what is it? Well, I'm doing my best to explain what is that, and it requires a series of explanations because it requires some understanding of Japanese culture too to understand it. So it takes some time, and it requires some of the effort. But there are people who reach to the understanding after some investment of their time. So mm, I still don't. I was thinking about the kind of lines, but I still have to keep asking this question around. I don't know. I have not got the conclusion yet today. I mean, there might not be even the conclusion for that. It's probably the ongoing approach or ongoing trying. Ongoing trying? It doesn't make sense, but it has to be a continuous learning, probably. But yeah, don't worry about it too much. If you worried about it, if you worry about it, don't worry about it too much. If you don't worry about it, please worry about it. That's kind of the basic line. Either cherry picking or cultural appropriation. If you worry about it, that's a very good sign that you don't have to worry about it. If you don't worry about it, then that's a very good sign that you might want to worry about it. It comes down to the learning. Yep, so we have to be very careful. The learning can be a very, very, very tricky thing. Like, I use that learning as like easy way to say that. But we have to be very, very careful what to learn, where to learn from. Because there's a lot of preference, like my personal preference, your personal preference kicks in that learning. And today, because of the internet, we can find the answer we want to have. Like COVID was a very good case. There's a two extreme answers on the internet. Does COVID exist? If you believe yes, you can find the answer yes. If you don't believe that COVID exists, you could find the answer that COVID is all fake. There were two answers. It's pretty much based on your preference at this moment. So, you can choose to not to listen to me or not to read what I write if you don't like what I say. But that's not really the learning if we define what learning is. But so learning itself is, we have to be careful when I including myself, have to be careful when people saying the learning, because that might be just saying for the saying. I'm not saying you're saying for the saying, but there are people who say that for the saying. And we have to be careful on that. When you're making a large project like this that will be seen on both sides, how do you prevent having lots of jumps? We don't jump. We do kasane. We don't jump. Do you kasane and cut at every short line before jumping? Yep. All the clippings. Well, Jocelyn, you should know the answer. Well, that's the answer probably you don't want to hear, but that's the, I mean, what else can we do? Can we magically erase the jump? No, we can't. So that's the answer. Okay, I wasn't planning to thread this, but I did, so I'm gonna just finish one more thread and then I will conclude today's live streaming. So on the small half square, you basically just go back over the whole line. There are some stitches just with kasane. They are stitches just kasane. And it's not a matter of right or wrong. Okay, I will stop here. It gets to the technical question, and I do not answer technical question in the live streaming, to be fair. I don't know if I told this, but I have a very weird tendency. Like, this is more like a habit to make it comfortable or not, but I cannot. Well, like psychologically, I cannot leave any thread on the needle and then finish the night or finish that stitching time. So I have to always make the thread empty when I end it. So I wasn't planning to thread it. I was gonna end it, but because I thread it, that does kind of postpone that. I appreciate that short answer. Don't apologize. That I just, has a rule that I don't answer those technical questions, but it's not your fault. It's just the characteristic of this live streaming. If I allow the technical question, this live streaming will be just a technical question, and that's not what I want to do. Before I established this, you may not believe that, but 6 years ago, I used to teach how to use thimble in the live streaming pretty much every time I went on the live streaming, because I did not restrict any technical questions. So I did not have fun, and then it was not sustainable. I just stopped doing it because it was so much tiring for nothing. So it's more like the rules to protect myself, to make it sustainable. You can probably find that. Like, I don't delete the live streaming, so you may be able to find those live streaming that I teach. And if they find it, then I consider that they're lucky too. So On a side note, I really appreciate your hard work and passion for Sashiko. Your passion can be felt through the screen. I appreciate that. Passion. I may have a different definition for the passion, but I don't know if this is the passion. This is, how can I explain that? When you try to protect your family, it's not a passion, right? When you breathe, you don't do it passionately. You do it. You have to do it. So stitching is like breathing, and talking about Sashiko to define or to explain more is like protecting my family. So it looks like passionate, and I really appreciate it. The passion itself is a very strong thing, but this is not something I choose. Well, I am choosing to do it, but I don't have a choice to not to do it. I am choosing it, but I don't think I have a choice to not to do it, because if I don't do that, I probably will not keep breathing. So that's what's Sashiko to me, and that's very rare because nobody is like that. I was born in a Sashiko family, which itself is very extremely rare. Nobody does that, and nobody practiced Sashiko for the survival, and nobody last 50 years almost nobody practiced that. But my family and including myself stitched for the other type of survival, not the actual physical survival, but more like to make ends meet kind of survival. And I do not fully respect why I'm not all happy about what we did. Not we as the family. I was too small for that. But it is also part of my Sashiko too. So I'm trying to reverse it if I can. I may be asking for forgiveness for at some point by sharing. I mean, I don't know who I'm asking to. I'm not a Christian, so I don't know who I'm asking for the forgiveness. But I kind of feel that too. So it's for many people, Sashiko is just the hobby, right? Hobby or stitching practice, and I like it that way, and I hope you can keep enjoying it as a choice. It's the best way, and that's why I share as much as I can, and I hope you can keep enjoying it. But unfortunately, that's not every population of Sashiko. There are people who are trying to twist the culture for their own profit. This is very unfortunate, but it is happening. For that, they're changing the identity of somebody I care. They are trying to rewrite their own preference to something they are comfortable, convenient, and I cannot let that happen. Not I cannot, I don't want it to happen. So that's the whole reason, that's the whole motivation behind me. Yeah, it's very sad. It's very painful, but you know, that's what internet brought to. Internet brought both sides. Thanks to the internet, I can share. I can meet those people like you here who try to listen. At the same time, at this moment, I guess anybody can be any expert at any point if they have the voice, if they have a time and voice to speak up, especially if it's not structured. I mean, you cannot be like a professional soccer player today. You cannot be the soccer player at any point because there is a structure. But if it's the sport that you created yesterday or today, or if it's the sports that nobody knows, let's say let's say that there was some living in the Mars that nobody knows, only you know, and then they have some sport that they play over there in the Mars. It's very difficult for the other people to find out what it is. In that case, you're the only one who knows it. So you can be the expert without any practice for that because you are very one few that knows it. Until the Mars people attack the Earth. I mean, not attack, visit the Earth. Then they can say, well, he's not an expert. I mean, I don't even consider myself an expert. People consider me as an expert. And I teach, so I have a pride as the teacher. And I think I'm good at teaching, but am I the expert in Sashiko? No, I can. It's. I feel so embarrassed. Not even embarrassed. I cannot stand in front of those Sashiko artisans I grew up with. They did not even consider themselves as the expert too. With like 60, 70 years of experience, they did not consider it as the expert. To me, their work isn't their, skill isn't expert level. But they didn't, so I don't, because that's a little too much. All right. Okay. I appreciate you coming here. Thank you so much. I do the live streaming every Thursday night. Sometimes I cancel that because of the condition, but I try my best to do that every single week on Thursday night. If you can, please put the like button. It's gonna help me to keep this YouTube channel healthy status. And I do not make announcement for the live streaming much. If you subscribe to the channel, I think you will get the announcement or notification on your channel. So if you haven't subscribed, that might be helpful for that. And please, that also helps the channel health. If you're watching this as the archive, your question, I will try to answer your question in the next live streaming. So your question will be appreciated too. Every other things, my main platform is the Instagram for this sharing the stories. And my Instagram account is somewhere on the description. And my business or other, teaching business platform is the website. So both of them are on the description area. So if you are interested in the Sashiko we practice, please visit those platforms. All right. I hope you have a good night. If you're in the US area, you have a good night. If you are rest of the world, you have a good day. Thank you so much. Have a good night. Bye bye.